In Europe, some kids have a new way of learning history.
They're very excited about history, curious. That's what history does for them. It makes them curious.
Sounds good. So why don't we have this in our schools? Probably because the founder of the company that invented the digital learning program is not allowed to work in America. He's Thomas Ketchell, and he's in Belgium now. Why aren't you allowed to work here?
Unfortunately, the H-1B visas, there's a quota, and it's actually very short, and there's not much room for entrepreneurs like me, and there's no startup founder visa either, so we're really quite limited as to how we can get into the country and work.
The B1 visa lets you come here, visit, but you can't work. For that, you need the H-1B, and America accepts applications for that every year on April 1st. But this year, applicants grabbed every available visa within less than a week. So I can see why it's tough for people like you.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely crazy that, you know, there are companies and lots of founders like me who are coming from Europe and all over the world coming to the US to actually, you know, get their company up and running and get their product out there and actually create jobs for Americans. But we actually just can't. You know, we're stopped at the border, and you know, we have to keep coming back in 3-month stints, and you know, we're not actually allowed to physically work. So it's actually proving very difficult for companies like ours.
Why do you need to be physically in America? Why can't you hire Americans from Belgium? Build your company here from Belgium.
The founder has to be there, at least one of the founders. And it's really important to keep those relations up with the investors from the US, but also, you know, selling to schools and districts. Like, we need one of the founders there at least to conduct business in the US.
Well, a number of successful entrepreneurs agree with you. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg started an advocacy group to try to persuade politicians to allow more trained immigrants into America. His group makes videos featuring applicants like this Princeton student.
There are a lot of people like me who can do a lot of brilliant things, but are not able to do it just because of immigration-related legal reasons.
And American billionaires Sheldon Adelson, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates wrote this op-ed saying it's insanity to train intelligent, motivated people in our universities and then deport them when they graduate. Roll out the welcome mat. In response to that, this clueless Republican senator from Alabama said this.
We need to create jobs for Americans first before we bring in foreign workers to take those jobs.
So, Thomas, what about that? Create jobs for Americans. Don't bring in few foreigners.
Most of the hires that we are going to make are in the US because most of our business is done there. So I find it's pretty silly to think that just because a founding member is not from the US is just going to hire non-US employees, then that's just not going to happen.
Some other countries are much more welcoming to people like you. In Canada, there are all these programs that if you're going to make an investment like you, and Canada even put up a billboard in San Francisco. You got a problem getting workers? Come to Canada.
And I think Canada's actually doing pretty well from that. But the problem is that really our market is in the US, so we have to be here. You know, moving up north to Canada, it doesn't really make much sense because we're going to still have to come down to the US and speak to schools and districts all over the country.
Thank you, Thomas Ketchell. Maybe someday you'll be allowed to work here and you can bring in all your good ideas.